Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's podcast, English Listening Practice Podcast topic name is C1 Level Advanced Grammar. Welcome, ambitious English learners, to the deep dive. Today, we're really embarking on quite an exciting journey, I think. One that builds directly on, the English knowledge you already have and aims to propel you towards that C1 excellence.
That's right.
We know you're aiming high, and well, that's exactly what this deep dive is all about.
Right.
Because at the C1 level, grammar isn't just memorizing rules anymore, is it? It really becomes more of an art form.
It really does.
It's about weaving these complex structures quite seamlessly into your speaking and writing.
Yeah, allowing you to express nuance, which is so important.
Definitely. And, impressing examiners if that's your goal, and just generally elevating your communication in, pretty much every context.
Absolutely. And in this particular deep dive, we're really zeroing in on 7 advanced grammar topics.
Okay, 7 key areas.
Yeah, and these aren't just, obscure things you'll never use.
Right.
They're the actual building blocks for handling really intricate hypothetical scenarios, for conveying subtle probabilities, and for crafting genuinely sophisticated sentences.
So practical tools, basically.
Very practical. Think of them as your toolkit for mastering those key areas, like use of English, writing, speaking, especially in advanced exams, places where precision, variety, elegant expression, they're not just nice to have, they're required.
Yeah.
So we're going to guide you through this journey, hopefully unlocking new levels of clarity and impact in your English.
All right then, ambitious learners, let's kick off our journey into C1 excellence. Now, we've all mastered the basic if statements, right? If it rains, I'll take an umbrella. Simple stuff.
Basics.
But what if I told you there's a way to kind of inject your conditionals with a bit more elegance? Almost like a linguistic secret handshake.
I like that analogy.
We're diving headfirst into inversion and conditionals. It's about flipping those familiar structures we know.
Yeah.
Not just for variety, which is good, but also for emphasis, for formality, and to really make your point land with, impact.
Definitely.
So maybe you can tell us, why does this seemingly small shift, flipping the worlds around,
Right.
carry such a significant punch at the C1 level? What's the magic behind it?
That's a great question. And it really gets to the heart of what makes English advanced. Inversion and conditionals, it isn't just a grammatical trick. It's a stylistic device. It signals a higher level of linguistic sophistication. When you invert a conditional, you're essentially kind of echoing older, more formal English structures.
Like literature or something.
Exactly. Like you find in literature, legal texts, maybe formal speeches. Think of it like a conductor using a crescendo in music.
Okay, building it up.
Yeah. You're deliberately drawing attention to that opening phrase, giving it more weight, more sort of gravitas. So instead of the standard if plus subject plus verb, we're shifting to structures like were plus subject plus to plus verb, or maybe had plus subject plus past participle. And this immediately elevates the tone. It makes your expressions sound more assertive, more refined. It's kind of a subtle nod to the historical roots of the language, and it instantly conveys a speaker's command and, their intention to be impactful.
That's fascinating. So it's not just what you say, but very much how you say it. And this structure adds that layer of seriousness or weight.
Precisely.
Let's really dig into some examples then to see this in action, especially with type 2 and type 3 conditionals. These are the ones for unreal situations or past unreal situations.
Hypotheticals, yeah.
So your standard, if I were rich, I'd travel the world. We all know that one.
The classic dream.
Now, with inversion, imagine saying, were I rich, I'd travel the world. Can you hear that? How that were I rich immediately sets a more contemplative tone, maybe even a bit wistful.
It does. It feels different.
The condition, being rich, is brought right to the front. It becomes the central focus. It feels more deliberate, maybe a bit more literary.
Indeed. It's about front-loading that condition, as you say. Consider another type 2 example. If she knew the truth, she would be upset.
Okay.
When you invert it, it becomes, were she to know the truth, she would be upset.
Were she to know, that sounds quite elegant.
It does. And that were she to know construction is particularly useful. It implies a hypothetical situation that's maybe less likely, but it's still being considered. You see it a lot in formal proposals or reports when discussing potential but maybe unlikely future scenarios.
I can picture that.
And then for type 3 conditionals, the ones delving into hypothetical pasts, things that didn't happen in version really shines.
Right, the regrets.
Exactly. Take, if we had arrived earlier, we would have seen the show. standard type 3. The inverted version, had we arrived earlier, we would have seen the show. It just clearly and concisely expresses that unfulfilled past condition and its consequence.
Yeah, it's shorter too.
It is. And that had takes on a double role there. It signals both the past perfect tense and the inversion, which means you don't need if at all.
And it must be incredibly powerful for mixed conditionals too, right? Where you're mixing up the time frames.
Absolutely. That's a great application.
Like imagine expressing a past action that has a direct result right now.
Okay.
The standard might be, if I had studied harder back then, I would be more successful now in the present.
Right. Linking past and present.
But with inversion, it just streamlines into this more impactful, had I studied harder, I would be more successful now.
Oh yeah, much punchier.
That inversion just cuts through the complexity, doesn't it? It makes the connection between the past regret and the present outcome really sharp and clear. It seems perfect for those moments of, I don't know, deep reflection or regret where you want your words to carry that extra weight.
It absolutely compresses the meaning very effectively. And it's not just were and had. We can also use should for suggestions or to talk about possible future events.
Ah, okay. So another flavor of inversion.
Exactly. The slightly different feel. So instead of saying, if you should need any assistance, please contact us, which is already quite formal.
Yeah, sounds formal.
We can refine it even further to, should you need any assistance, please contact us.
Ah, okay. Very concise.
Very concise. And you hear this a lot in formal instructions, company policies, customer service communications. It implies a possibility rather than a certainty, offering a polite and concise way to introduce that conditional clause.
So like, should it rain, take an umbrella, instead of if it rains.
Exactly. Transforming if it rains, take an umbrella into should it rain, take an umbrella. The should here makes the if clause less direct. It signals a contingency, a possibility, rather than an imminent event. And that's a subtle but significant distinction at the C1 level.
It really seems to boil down to making strategic choices for emphasis and tone then.
That's a perfect summary.
Now, for those listeners aiming for C1 success, what are your top tips for mastering inversion? You know, without sounding like you're reading Shakespeare all the time.
Yes, avoiding the Shakespeare effect. A fantastic point.
And crucially, what are the common pitfalls, the things we should definitely avoid?
Okay, good questions. In your writing, the key is moderation. Use inversion sparingly.
Don't overdo it.
Exactly. If you overuse it, your prose can indeed sound archaic or stilted or just unnatural. Think of it as a rhetorical flourish, like a special spice you add for effect, not the main ingredient.
Got it. Save it for impact.
Precisely. It's best saved for emphasis. Maybe in the introduction or conclusion of an academic essay to make a strong opening statement or to really drive home a final point.
Okay.
It can also be very effective in narrative writing, to create dramatic flair or highlight a pivotal moment.
And what about speaking?
For speaking, particularly in an exam context like the Part 3 discussions, actually practicing these inversions can significantly elevate your delivery.
How so?
Well, it signals a sophisticated grasp of grammar. It can make your argument sound more nuanced, more well-considered, especially when you're discussing complex hypothetical scenarios. Try to integrate it when you want to make a particularly strong, yet maybe polite suggestion, or to express a regret, perhaps.
I can really see how that would make a sentence much more impactful in a discussion. Are there any particular verbs or situations where inversion feels, I don't know, most natural or common?
Well, the had, were, and should forms are the main ones you'll encounter and use. Had for past unreal, were for present future unreal, and should for those possible future events or polite suggestions.
Okay. And the most common mistake. What's the big one C1 learners make when trying to use inversion?
Ah, the big one. The critical error is trying to use inversion in real or type 1 conditionals.
Ah, okay. The everyday if clauses.
Exactly. That's a definite no-go. You absolutely would not invert if it rains, we'll stay inside, to should it rain, we'll stay inside if you're talking about a highly probable real future event. That's just wrong.
Right, because should implies possibility, not certainty.
Precisely. The should inversion is for a possible future event or a polite suggestion or a less certain outcome, not a near certain reality. Stick to the standard if for those everyday type 1 scenarios.
Good tip.
And on exam day, especially in things like the use of English sentence transformations, be on the lookout for inversion. If you get a sentence that requires you to somehow omit if, but still express a condition, that's often your clue. It's a very common way examiners test your advanced grammar, and mastering it can really give your score a boost.
Okay, great advice. So from flipping phrases for emphasis, let's pivot now to the power of probability.
Okay, modals.
Yeah, our second deep dive segment explores modals, probability, deduction, and speculation. We're looking at how those modal verbs, must, might, could, can't convey different degrees of certainty, and we're especially focusing on past probabilities. So what's so crucial about understanding these sometimes subtle differences at an advanced level? Why does it matter so much?
Well, this is where precision in language really, really shines. It's where you move beyond just stating facts to indicating your level of conviction or maybe your doubt.
Okay, showing how sure you are.
Exactly. The subtle differences in strength that these modals convey are absolutely crucial for expressing nuanced opinions. Whether you're in a debate, writing a formal report, or, just speculating about why something happened,
Right.
It's about moving beyond simply stating facts to showing your stance. We're talking about a whole spectrum of certainty, from near impossible to almost definite. And selecting the right modal allows you to position your statement with, exactitude.
So it adds nuance, like the difference between he might be angry and he must be angry.
Precisely. The first suggests a possibility, maybe one of several. The second implies a logical conclusion based on some evidence. And that level of nuance is absolutely essential for clear C1 communication.
Okay, let's illustrate with some key examples then. For high probability or deduction, we use must or must have for those logical conclusions, right? Based on evidence.
I did the one.
So if your friend isn't answering her phone and you know she's usually glued to it, you might deduce she's not answering, she must be busy. It's a logical assumption based on what you know.
Makes sense. Based on the evidence.
Now, for expressing impossibility, something that logically just cannot be true, we turn to can't or couldn't have.
Right, the opposite end of the spectrum.
So if someone tells you a really far-fetched story, you might just exclaim, that can't be true. It's too ridiculous.
Yeah, strong disbelief.
Or if you know for a fact someone was fast asleep during an event, you'd say, he didn't hear us. He couldn't have been asleep. The facts just don't support the alternative.
Right, it contradicts the known facts. And then moving down the scale a bit, we get to medium or low probability.
Okay, less certain.
Yeah. Here, might, may, or may have express possibilities, but without that strong logical deduction we saw with must.
So, just a chance.
Pretty much. If your keys are missing, you might think, the keys are gone. They might have fallen out of my pocket. It's plausible, right?
Yeah.
One of several possibilities, but definitely not a certainty. For even more remote chances, could or could have are often used. For instance, it could rain later. I'm not sure. This generally signals a lower degree of certainty than might.
So, could is even less likely than might, generally.
Often, yes. There's overlap, but could often implies a slightly more remote possibility. And a vital point to remember here is the distinction between past and present speculation.
Ah, yes, the time frame.
Crucial. For past events, you always pair the modal with have plus past participle. Always.
Okay.
So she might be busy for now, but she might have been busy for yesterday. This structure is absolutely essential for accurate past speculation. It lets you discuss what potentially happened without assorting it as a definite fact.
Absolutely. That have plus past participle is a real game changer for talking about the past, isn't it? It lets us sort of ghost actions into the past using our present modals.
That's a good way to put it.
Now, for some tips for C1 success and common pitfalls with modals. In your writing, especially essays, using modals effectively lets you speculate on causes and effects without sounding, too absolute or dogmatic.
Yes, it shows caution, critical thinking.
Exactly. Instead of stating flatly, the policy caused the economy to suffer, which is a very strong factual claim.
Maybe too strong if you're not 100% sure.
Right. You could write, the economy must have suffered due to the policy if you have strong evidence, or maybe even the economy could have suffered due to the policy if it's more speculative. It just demonstrates critical thought, acknowledging that you're making a reasoned deduction or exploring possibilities rather than presenting it as unassailable fact. It feels more academic, more cautious.
And good advice for variety too. Try not to overuse just one modal. Mix them up.
Yeah, good point.
And combine them with phrases like, it's possible that, or it's probable that, or it seems likely that. It shows a wider range of expression and stops your writing sounding monotonous. That's excellent advice for demonstrating linguistic agility. And in speaking, particularly when you're describing photos, say in part 2 of an exam,
Ah, yeah, the photo description task.
modals are your best friend there. They let you speculate and infer without stating things as fact, which is often exactly what the examiner is looking for.
Because you can't always be sure what's happening.
Exactly. So you can say, the people might be celebrating a birthday, rather than a definitive, the people are celebrating a birthday. Especially if you're not entirely certain from the picture. It shows you're observing and interpreting, not just labeling.
Smart.
And here's an important exam alert, especially for closed tests or multiple choice questions. Be very clear about the difference between mustn't and must not have.
Okay, what's the key difference?
Mustn't expresses prohibition, like you mustn't touch that. It's about rules or strong advice against doing something.
Right? Don't do it.
Whereas must not have expresses past deduction, implying impossibility or strong doubt about a past event, like they must not have received the message because they didn't reply. You're deducing something didn't happen.
I see. Prohibition versus past impossibility.
Exactly. Confusing those two can easily lead to errors, so pay really careful attention to the context and whether you're talking about a rule or a deduction about the past.
Okay, that's super clear. Let's dive into our third segment, participle clauses.
Streamlining sentences.
Yes. This is where we learn to make sentences flow better using those edging forms, present active or ed forms, past, the participles. Mastering these can make your writing much more concise, sophisticated, and just, well, fluid. It helps eliminate unnecessary words. So how do these mini subordinates, as you called them earlier, actually transform our writing?
They're incredibly efficient. Just like you said, think of them as linguistic compression tools. Seriously.
Compressing meaning.
Yeah, they allow you to convey reasons or times or results without needing a full, sometimes cumbersome clause, one with an explicit subject and a finite verb.
Right, cuts down on words like because or who was.
Exactly. This makes your sentences denser with meaning, more elegant, and frankly, more mature. It's a real hallmark of advanced language use, showing you can condense information without losing any clarity. For example, instead of saying, because I was tired, I went home, you can just say, feeling tired, I went home.
Much smoother.
It's direct, smooth, and avoids repeating I.
That's a great example of cutting the clutter. Let's see how this works with a few more examples. For the present participle, we're talking about active actions or simultaneous actions or reasons, right?
That's it. Active voice, usually happening at the same time as the main verb, or explaining the reason for it.
So like the example, because she was tired, she went home early, becoming feeling tired, she went home early. The ing form clearly shows the cause there.
Yeah.
Another example, seeing the dog, she screamed. The two actions, seeing and screaming, happen almost together, with one prompting the other.
Instant reaction. Very useful in descriptive writing to convey that immediacy or concurrent events. You might also hear, whistling a tune, he strolled down the street. Yeah. Two actions happening simultaneously, linked by the participle. Then you have the past participle, es, which we typically use for passive states or actions completed before the main verb, often describing the subject.
Okay, passive meaning.
Right. So rather than writing, the book was written by a famous author and it is a bestseller, you can condense it beautifully to, written by a famous author, the book is a bestseller.
Nice.
The written by clause succinctly describes the book's origin, indicating that passive relationship. Similarly, the house was built in 1900 and it is historic, becomes simply built in 1900, the house is historic. It really tightens up the sentence structure.
And you have to remember the irregular verbs here, right? Using the third form.
Absolutely, like broken, chosen, spoken, taken. And for actions that were completed before the main action of the sentence, we use the perfect participle forms.
Ah, the having done structure.
Exactly. Having plus past participle. Instead of after he ate, he felt full, you get the concise having eaten, he felt full, or having finished his work, he left the office. It clearly establishes the sequence first finishing, then leaving, without needing two separate clauses joined by after.
It really is all about elegance and efficiency, isn't it?
It truly is.
And when using these, you mentioned paying attention to their position and the use of commas. Where do they usually go?
Typically, they're found at the beginning or sometimes the end of a sentence. And you'll generally use commas when the participle clause provides non-essential or additional information. The comma helps to separate it clearly from the main clause.
Okay. And you had a great illustrative example. Exhausted from the hike and covered in mud, they collapsed on the sofa.
Yes, that one packs in a lot of description very concisely. You get the cause, exhausted, covered, and the result, collapsed, all in one smooth sentence. It paints a really vivid picture without unnecessary words like because they were or and they were. Now for some tips for C1 success here. In your writing, especially essays or reports, I highly recommend using participle clauses to shorten those potentially long, complex sentences.
Great idea.
Maybe aim for one well-placed participle clause per paragraph, perhaps. It shows your control and range, adds a sophisticated rhythm to your prose, and demonstrates you can manipulate sentence structure effectively.
But there's a big danger zone, right? The dangling modifier.
Yes, the critical error to absolutely avoid. The dangling modifier. This happens when the participle clause doesn't clearly, logically refer to the subject of the main clause.
Can you give an example?
The classic one is something like, walking home, the rain started.
Sounds like the rain is taking a stroll.
Exactly. The rain wasn't walking home. The participle must clearly refer to the subject performing that action. So you'd need to rephrase it. Maybe, walking home, I noticed the rain started. Or, as I was walking home, the rain started.
So always check who or what is doing the action in the participle clause.
Perfect mental check. Make sure that matches the subject of your main clause. It's crucial for clarity.
That's a really common mistake to watch out for, definitely. And in speaking, you can also integrate participles, right? To make descriptions flow better.
Absolutely. It makes your speech sound more natural and less choppy. For instance, instead of saying, I live in the city and I enjoy the buzz, which is fine, but a bit basic,
Yeah.
you could say, living in the city, I enjoy the buzz. It connects the two ideas smoothly, making your spoken English more fluent, more sophisticated.
Nice. And for exam purposes, sentence transformations again.
Yes. Keep an eye out for opportunities in sentence transformations to convert clauses, starting with because, after, a while, or relative clauses like who was, into participle clauses. It's a frequent way examiners test your ability to use these advanced structures, and you get rewarded for that conciseness and grammatical sophistication.
Okay, let's move on then. Our fourth deep dive segment, patterns with reporting verbs.
Reporting what others say, but in style.
Exactly. This is all about unpacking how those more advanced reporting verbs like suggest, advise, deny, recommend, insist follow very specific grammatical patterns at the C1 level. It's definitely more complex than just sticking with he said or she told me.
Much more complex and much more precise.
So why is mastering these specific patterns so vital for, say, advanced summarization or reporting?
It's absolutely crucial because it allows you to summarize opinions and statements accurately and concisely, especially in writing tasks like reports or essays where you're synthesizing information. It lets you report information in a really sophisticated way, showing not just what was said, but also the function or the intent behind the statement. Was it advice, a suggestion, a command, a denial, an accusation?
Adding that layer of interpretation.
Exactly. This adds a layer of precision that significantly elevates your communication. For instance, instead of a simple, he said that we should reduce plastic use, you can use a more precise reporting verb and pattern like he recommended reducing plastic use.
Much shorter and clearer about the function.
Both shorter and more precise about the nature of the statement.
I see the efficiency there. Okay, let's look at the different patterns then. First up, we have verb plus that clause. This seems quite common, right? Like, he explained that it was late.
Very common. And notice, as you pointed out, that is often omitted, especially in speech or less formal writing, but it's grammatically implied.
Right, like the expert claims the data is accurate instead of claims that the data is accurate.
Correct. It directly reports the content of the claim, the statement, the belief. Other verbs following this pattern include state, believe, report, think, announce, mention. Loads of them. She reported that the project was on schedule. Standard stuff. Then we have the verb plus object plus infinitive pattern. This one's frequently used for giving advice, commands, or making requests.
Okay, so telling someone to do something.
Exactly. Your example, she told me to leave, fits perfectly. The verb told is followed by the object me and then the infinitive to leave.
Clear structure.
Very clear. Another one, my boss advised us to work harder. Here, advise takes us as the object and to work harder as the infinitive. It's a very direct way to convey an instruction or a recommendation.
What other verbs fit here? Ask, warn.
Yes, ask, order, warn, encourage, persuade, remind, invite. Many useful ones. Imagine they encouraged us to pursue our dreams.
Okay, and then a different pattern is verb plus gerund. This is for verbs like admit, deny, suggest, right?
That's right. Where the action being reported is expressed as a gerund, young king form, directly after the reporting verb.
So he admitted stealing the money. The action stealing is the gerund.
Precisely. Or They denied knowing about the plan. The knowing is the gerund. It's a very concise way to report an admission, a denial, a suggestion, and so on.
What others follow this? Consider, regret.
Yep, consider, imagine. Regret, postpone, finish, miss, practice, recommend sometimes. She suggested visiting the museum. And slightly different again, we also have the verb plus preposition plus gerund pattern.
Ah, so a preposition gets involved now.
Yes, this happens with verbs that naturally take a specific preposition before the gerund object. A really good example is, she apologized for being late. The for is essential there. You can't just say she apologized being late.
Oh, I need the for.
Need the for. Another common one, she accused him of lying. The of is integral to the structure with accuse.
Okay, what others insist on, dream of?
Exactly. Insist on, dream of, approve of, disapprove of, think about of, succeed in, look forward to. For instance, he insisted on paying for dinner.
And you mentioned sometimes there are variations where one verb can use multiple patterns.
Yes, that can be tricky. Some verbs like insist or suggest or remember can actually take multiple patterns depending on the nuance.
Like your insist example.
Right. You can say he insisted on paying the bill using on plus gerund, but you could also say she insisted that I stay using that clause, often with a subjunctive mood, stay, not stays or stayed, in formal contexts. Recognizing these variations is definitely a mark of advanced understanding and gives you greater flexibility.
Those variations certainly add a layer of complexity to remember. Okay, so for tips for C1 success, how can learners manage all these patterns?
Well, I'd really recommend organizing your learning by grouping verbs according to the patterns they follow.
Make lists, basically.
Yeah, make lists. Verbs that take object plus infinitive, advise, tell, ask, etc. Verbs that take a gerund, admit, deny, suggest. Verbs that need a specific preposition plus gerund, apologize for, insist on. This kind of active memorization, maybe using flashcards, will make it much easier to recall them correctly under pressure.
Good strategy. And in writing, how best to use them?
In your writing, particularly reports and essays, use these structures to paraphrase effectively and concisely. Instead of long-winded explanations of what someone said or recommended, you can state, experts recommend reducing plastic use, or the report suggested implementing new measures. It's concise, it sounds authoritative, and it demonstrates your control over academic English. It adds that gravitas without being overly wordy. And in speaking, especially during those Part 3 discussions and exams, these patterns are invaluable for reporting others' views or summarizing points concisely and accurately. For example, you could say, she suggested going by train, rather than a more clunky phrasing like, she suggested that we should go by train.
Sounds much more natural.
Much more natural and fluent. And frankly, it saves you precious time in a timed speaking test. Now, a major pitfall, a really big one to warn against, is mixing up the patterns.
Like using the wrong structure after a verb.
Exactly. For instance, saying, he suggested me to go is incorrect. Takes a gerund, suggested going, or that clause suggested that I go, but not an object plus infinitive in that direct way.
Oh, okay. That's a really common error, isn't it?
Very common. So be mindful of the precise verb complementation, what structure correctly follows each reporting verb. In exams, these patterns frequently pop up in open-close exercises or sentence transformations, where the surrounding context often provides strong clues for the correct grammatical structure needed.
Okay, fantastic. Let's delve into our fifth deep dive segment, unreal time. This sounds intriguing.
It is. It's a fascinating area.
This is where we use past tenses to talk about present or future situations that are hypothetical, not real.
Right, or impossible.
And it also involves mixed structures for all sorts of non-factual scenarios, things like regrets, preferences, and even the subjunctive mood we touched on. So why is this concept of unreal time so vital for expressing these complex, non-factual situations with real precision?
Well, it's genuinely important because it allows you to basically enter a world of what-ifs, desires, and alternative realities using your language.
Beyond just facts.
Exactly. Without it, your ability to express nuanced thoughts about things that aren't actually happening or didn't happen would be pretty severely limited. It's about communicating those delicate shades of meaning when you're discussing possibilities that diverge from reality.
Okay.
And the core mechanism, really, is using a past tense for something that isn't actually past. Yeah, that's the signal. That signals its hypothetical, non-factual nature. This is what we often call backshifting.
Backshifting.
Okay. Yeah, moving the verb tense back in time often from present to past or past to past perfect, specifically to indicate that the situation is unreal or hypothetical or maybe being reported indirectly. It's a fundamental mechanism for expressing complex ideas that aren't grounded in current fact.
That explanation of backshifting really clarifies it. Okay, let's break down some examples, starting with the classics. Wishes and if only. These are prime examples of unreal time, right?
Absolutely textbook examples.
So for a present unreal situation, something you wish were different right now, we use the past simple.
Correct.
So if it's cloudy and you desperately want sunshine, you'd say, I wish it were sunny. And you mentioned using were even for it, which is the formal subjunctive mood.
That's the traditional subjunctive, yes. Though you'll often hear, I wish it was sunny in informal speech nowadays, were is still preferred in formal contexts and exams for singular subjects like he, she, it.
Okay, good to know. And if you don't have money?
You'd say, I wish I had money, using the past simple had to express a wish about your current reality.
Right. And for past unreal situations, basically, regrets about things that didn't happen or happened differently.
For those, we use the past perfect, the had done form.
So if you didn't call someone and you regret it now, you'd say, I wish I had called her.
Exactly. I wish I had called. If only I had known. This expresses regret about a past action or inaction that simply cannot be changed now. It's a really powerful way to convey remorse or a longing for a different past outcome. Another common structure that demonstrates this unreal time is it's time or it's high time.
Ah, yes, these feel quite urgent.
They do, and they use the past simple to convey that present urgency. They imply that something should have happened already or really needs to happen now.
So if I think, we really should leave now, I could say.
You could phrase it more emphatically as, it's time we left. Using the past tense left indicates that this action is urgent and should be happening now or is even slightly overdue.
Okay, and it's high time is even stronger.
Generally, yes. It's high time we address this issue. Implies that action is seriously overdue, and the speaker probably feels a sense of impatience or a strong necessity.
Got it. Then we have would rather for preferences. How does that work with unreal time?
Okay, would rather has a couple of patterns. For a present preference about your own actions, you just use would rather plus base infinitive. Simple. I prefer tea to coffee becomes I'd rather have tea.
Straightforward.
But if you're expressing a preference about someone else's actions, now or in the future, you use would rather plus subject plus past simple.
Ah, okay. So if I don't want someone to tell anyone,
you'd say, I'd rather you didn't tell anyone.
Huh.
See, the past simple didn't tell. That signals the preference about someone else's action, making it slightly hypothetical or indirect. This subtle shift is crucial for expressing preferences involving other people correctly.
Right, that distinction is key. And then there's the subjunctive mood again, which, as you mentioned, pops up in more formal contexts.
Yes, it's less common in everyday speech, but important in formal writing and specific structures.
And the rule here is to use the base form of the verb, right? Regardless of the subject.
That's the one. Use the base form, the infinitive, without to express a recommendation, demand, requirement, or suggestion, often after specific verbs or phrases.
So like your example, the committee recommends that she be promoted. It's be, not is or was.
Correct. Or I suggest that he go, not he goes. This base form signals that it's a recommendation, a demand, or a suggestion. It often follows verbs like recommend, suggest, insist, demand, request, or in clauses introduced by phrases like it is essential that, it is vital that, it is important that.
Adds a very formal, almost official tone.
It does. Common in legal documents, meeting minutes, official proposals. Another example, it is vital that all members attend the meeting. Base form, attend. Now, for tips for C1 success with all this unreal time stuff, in your writing, especially in reflective essays or opinion pieces, using these structures can add significant depth and, as you said, a touch of gravitas.
Makes it sound more considered.
Definitely. Imagine writing, if only I had listened more carefully, perhaps things would be different now. This shows introspection and a strong command of expressing hypothetical pasts and their present consequences, moving way beyond simple statements of regret.
And you stressed consistency earlier.
Absolutely crucial. Consistency in backshifting is paramount. You have to avoid those common errors like, I wish I will go, or I wish I can go.
So what should you say for a future wish?
When expressing a wish about the future, you still use a past form, typically would or could, or sometimes the past continuous. Like, I wish I could go to the party next week, or I wish it would stop raining, or even, I wish I were going on holiday soon. You never use the future tense like will with wish. The backshift is consistent to maintain that hypothetical or unreal nature. Getting this consistency right is a real hallmark of C1 accuracy.
That's a super important point about consistency, and yeah, I wish I will, is a very common error I hear. Good to clarify. And in speaking, say in part 1 of an exam.
Yeah, even in part 1, using unreal time to express regrets or wishes can add more depth and sophistication to your responses. Instead of a simple, "I'm sorry I didn't study," you could elevate it by saying, "Oh, I really wish I had studied harder for that."
Shows more reflection and range.
Exactly. It elevates your answer, showing deeper reflection and a broader grammatical range right from the start. And for exam relevance overall, these structures frequently appear in sentence transformations. Words like wish, if only, it's time, or would rather, are often key triggers, signaling that you need to apply an unreal time structure, complete with the correct backshifting.
Okay, moving on to our 6th deep dive segment. This one is all about possession and noun modifiers.
Getting creative with ownership and description.
Exactly. Moving beyond the simple apostrophes to explore more complex, more nuanced ways of showing ownership and description. We're talking about using of, different types of genitives, and those useful noun modifiers. So how do these diverse structures actually offer more concise or more advanced phrasing compared to just using is all the time?
Well, it's fascinating how they do offer more concise and advanced phrasing, particularly for descriptions. It's not just about grammatical correctness, though that's important too. It's often about stylistic choice and efficiency.
Okay.
By mastering these different ways, you can convey information about ownership or characteristics in a much more sophisticated and often briefer manner than just relying solely on the apostrophe. It demonstrates a really nuanced understanding of how English builds relationships between nouns. Think about the elegance of the beauty of nature versus, say, the slightly clunkier nature's beauty in certain formal contexts. It just feels different.
Let's break down those distinctions then, because they seem important for tone and context. We all know the basic I's for possession, typically used for people and some animals, right?
Yeah.
John's book, The Dog's Tale.
That's the standard, most common form for animate possessors, yeah.
But for inanimate objects, or maybe more formal and abstract concepts, we tend to favor using of.
Generally, yes. So instead of the book's cover, which can sound a little awkward for an object, you'd more naturally say the cover of the book.
Okay.
Similarly, as we said, you'd probably refer to the beauty of nature rather than nature's beauty in many formal or descriptive contexts. It often has a touch more formality or emphasizes the quality itself. Even with animals, while the dog's tail is common, the tail of the dog wagged might be chosen in a narrative for a slightly different, perhaps more descriptive or detached feel. It's about subtle emphasis. And then we get to the slightly more complex double genitive.
Double genitive.
Big
Sounds
three.
tricky.
It's a bit more complex, yeah. It's used for expressing a kind of possession of possession, or often with pronouns, or to select one item from a group of possessions someone has.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Instead of saying the opinion of the expert's colleague, which is already a bit complex with two possessives,
Yeah, a bit wordy.
you can make it more succinct as an opinion of the experts. This implies one of the opinions belonging to the expert, conveying a sense of selection from a larger set. You also see it very commonly with pronouns. A friend of mine, that brilliant idea of yours.
Ah, right. A friend of mine. Makes sense.
Another very powerful tool, and incredibly common, is noun modifiers, also known as compound nouns.
Where one noun describes another.
Exactly. This is where two nouns act together, with the first noun essentially acting like an adjective modifying the second, all without needing a preposition like of or for. Think university library instead of the library of the university.
Or car keys instead of keys for the car.
Precisely. These are incredibly efficient, super common in English, and absolutely crucial for brevity and sounding natural. You also see transformations like a book intended for children, becoming simply a children's book. This streamlines complex descriptions into really compact, impactful phrases.
And we can also use participles as modifiers, right? Functioning like adjectives.
Yes, absolutely. Both present and past. Participles can function essentially as adjectives, often placed before the noun or sometimes after it, to save words and enhance conciseness.
So the broken window is much shorter than the window that is broken.
Much shorter, much more direct, or the man running is more concise than the man who is running. These are excellent for brevity and directness in description. Very useful in journalistic writing, headlines, or any context where conciseness is really valued. Think a barking dog instead of a dog that is barking. It's instantaneous, fluid description. Now, for tips for C1 success and common pitfalls here. A key thing is to choose the appropriate structure based on formality and what you want to emphasize.
So context matters.
Huge amount. Generally, of constructions might be used for more abstract concepts or to add that touch of formality, while the apostrophes is usually the go-to for people and specific close possession.
Okay.
In your writing, definitely embrace noun modifiers for brevity. Employee satisfaction survey is far more succinct and professional sounding than a survey about the satisfaction of employees.
Much better.
And aim to mix things up. Mix of constructions with noun modifiers and possessives to achieve variety and avoid repetitive phrasing. Over-relying on just one form can make your writing feel monotonous or less sophisticated.
Good point. And for exams?
In exam settings, particularly in vocabulary tasks like word formation exercises, you might encounter these. You might need to form compound nouns or use the correct possessive form, so understanding their nuances is key to selecting the correct form and spelling it right.
All right, we've reached it. Our 7th and final deep dive segment for today. Word order in phrasal verbs.
Ah, the classic challenge.
Definitely a tricky one for many learners. Tackling the often confusing placement of objects with phrasal verbs and really understanding the difference between separable and inseparable forms, especially when pronouns get involved.
Yeah, those pronouns cause a lot of trouble.
So why is getting this word order right so absolutely crucial for sounding natural and idiomatic in English?
Well, this is a really, really important area for sounding natural, as you say. It's often one of those subtle indicators of truly advanced proficiency versus someone who's still thinking rule by rule.
Okay.
What's crucial to grasp is that things like sentence stress and context also play a significant role in making your speech flow correctly with phrasal verbs. Getting the word order right isn't just about ticking a grammar box. It's fundamentally about sounding like a fluent, natural speaker.
Because incorrect placement just sounds wrong.
It sounds awkward, yeah. Unnatural, sometimes even nonsensical. So precision here truly matters for seamless communication. Plus, many phrasal verbs have meanings you just can't guess from the individual parts, making their usage very specific.
Okay, let's break down the rules then, starting with separable phrasal verbs. These are the ones where the object can move around a bit.
That's right. With these, the object, if it's a noun, can typically go either between the verb and the particle, or it can go after the particle.
So pick up the phone, or pick the phone up, both okay.
Both are grammatically correct and common when the object is a full noun phrase like the phone, or the book, or your coat.
But there's a catch with pronouns.
There is indeed. The crucial rule, the golden rule really, is this. If the object is a pronoun, like am, her, them, us, me, you, it must separate the verb and the particle. It has to go in the middle.
Must separate, okay.
You must say she turned it off. You can never ever say she turned off it. That is definitively wrong.
Got it. So put it down is correct, not put down it.
Exactly. Take them off, not take off them. This is probably the single most common error advanced learners still make with phrasal verbs. So mastering this pronoun placement is a huge step towards native-like fluency. Then on the other hand, you have inseparable phrasal verbs.
And these ones stick together.
They do. With inseparable phrasal verbs, the object always comes after the particle. You cannot split the verb and the particle up, regardless of whether the object is a noun or a pronoun.
Okay, example.
A common one is run into, meaning meet someone unexpectedly. We ran into an old friend is correct. You would never ever say, we ran an old friend into.
Right, sounds completely wrong.
It does. The verb and particle ran into function like a single unit, an almost inseparable lexical item. This is often the case with phrasal verbs that are truly idiomatic, where the particle significantly changes the verb's meaning, almost creating a new verb entirely.
Like look after.
Perfect example. Look after means to care for. You wouldn't say, I'll look your kids after. It's always, I'll look after your kids. Or depend on. You can depend on me, not depend me on.
And what about those 3-word phrasal verbs?
Good question. Those ones which involve a verb, then a particle, then a preposition like look forward to, put up with, get along with, run out of, are almost always inseparable.
So the object comes right at the end.
Exactly. The object always comes after the entire 3-word phrase. I'm looking forward to the party. She can't put up with the noise. We need to cut down on expenses. Understanding the subtle difference between a particle like up, out, on, off, which often change the verb's core meaning, and a simple preposition or adverb in this context can also be helpful. But the main practical focus for learners is mastering that object placement.
Okay, makes sense. So for tips for C1 success and common pitfalls with these tricky phrasal verbs, what's the best approach?
Well, honestly, I highly recommend actively learning and categorizing them. Create and learn lists of common separable phrasal verbs and common inseparable ones.
So group them again.
Yeah, group them. For separable, think turn off, give up, take off, put on, fill out, pick up. For inseparable, think look after, depend on, run into, come across, get over. Learning them in these groups will help them stick. Making flashcards or practicing writing your own sentences with them is also really effective.
And in speaking, why is it so crucial there?
In speaking, getting the word order right is just paramount for sounding natural. Incorrect word order with phrasal verbs is often a dead giveaway that someone isn't fully comfortable with the idiomatic flow of English. It can make your speech sound quite awkward, even jarring, and it can genuinely trip up native listeners if the object is misplaced, especially with pronouns. And in writing, are they okay to use?
Good question. In writing, using phrasal verbs when appropriate for the context can definitely add a more informal and engaging tone. Particularly useful in narratives, emails, or maybe less formal reports.
Right.
For example, he gave up smoking easily sounds much more natural and conversational in many contexts than, say, he ceased smoking with ease. However, you do need to choose your phrasal verbs carefully in very formal academic writing, as some might be considered too informal for that context.
Good point. Context is key.
And for exams, where do they pop up?
Again, they frequently appear in gapped sentences or multiple choice questions, especially in use of English sections. The context, the words around the gap, the type of object, noun, or pronoun often provides strong hints as to whether the phrasal verb required is separable or inseparable, or if a pronoun needs to be slotted right into the middle. Your ability to correctly navigate these phrasal verb patterns will truly make your English shine and show real C1 mastery.
Wow. Okay, what a journey that was. If you've stuck with us, you've just powered through 7 quite advanced grammar structures, all designed to make your C1 English, whether spoken or written, more polished, more persuasive, and just infinitely more nuanced.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover.
It really was. And this level of detail and control, using these structures effectively, is what truly sets proficient speakers and writers apart. So really, acknowledge the effort you've put into just listening and absorbing all this. It's a significant step in your language mastery. You're not just learning rules here, you're really learning the art of expression.
Absolutely. And, the crucial next step is continuous practice. Don't be afraid to maybe revisit any points that felt challenging. And probably the most effective way to really integrate these skills is to consciously try to incorporate maybe one new topic or structure daily into your language use.
Like make it a specific goal.
Exactly. Try journaling for 5 minutes using inverted conditionals, or spend a day consciously speculating about things using different past modals in your thoughts and conversations. It's that consistency that is the absolute key to C1 triumph and to truly making these sophisticated structures feel like your own.
So it becomes natural.
Precisely. This isn't just about knowing the rules exist. It's about being able to use them effortlessly and intuitively, making them a natural part of your linguistic toolkit.
So, considering everything we've explored today, all these intricate, powerful ways to express yourself, here's a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. Which of these advanced grammar structures we discussed will you actively try to weave into your next English conversation or piece of writing? And maybe think about how you expect it will transform your expression. Keep experimenting, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the art of language. And finally, if you found this deep dive valuable, please do like this video, share it with fellow learners, and subscribe to the Learn English Lab YouTube channel for more insights into mastering English. Thanks for joining us.